The movie begins with an explosion breaking off part of the rock face. Under the blazing sun, prisoners in a quarry smash boulders apart. One of them, John Rambo, is told to stop swinging his sledgehammer. Someone has come to see him. The former Special Forces soldier, hardened by labor, reluctantly puts down his tool and follows a guard. Waiting by the fence is an old familiar face, Colonel Troutman. Under Troutman's command, Rambo served in the Vietnam War. Later, he surrendered to the authorities and avoided a death sentence. For a long time, Troutman has been looking for a chance to pull his soldier out of prison. That chance has finally come. He asks the guard to give them a moment alone and explains to Rambo that the government needs his help again. John, I told you I'd help you when I could. There are still American POWs left behind in Vietnam, held in the very same camp Rambo once escaped from. No one knows that jungle terrain better than he does. Only he can handle the mission. His task is to infiltrate the enemy zone and confirm if any of their people are still alive. As usual, Rambo doesn't say much. He's long stopped believing in American ideals, and going back to a place where he was tortured isn't something he's eager to do. But 5 more years of forced labor in prison doesn't sound any better. Troutman knows what Rambo really wants. If he completes the mission and makes it out alive, he'll be reinstated in the army temporarily and granted a presidential pardon. Rambo weighs his options. His life doesn't have much purpose anymore. His old unit is gone. No friends, no family. What does freedom even mean to someone so broken? But helping those prisoners, men just like him, abandoned in the jungle, it might give him a reason to keep going. Rambo agrees. Troutman says the next time they meet, he'll be in Thailand with a special ops designate who will haunt the operation. As he turns to leave, Rambo stops him with a question. Whether this mission will mean anything depends on him alone. Soon, Rambo is flown to a US base in Thailand. At the helipad, he's greeted by a talkative guy named Erickson, who says it's an honor to work with him. They head inside and meet Colonel Troutman and Marshal Murdoch. The man sizes Rambo up. His record and medals are impressive, but can he follow orders after what happened with the police? To build some trust, Murdoch says he also served in Vietnam. He gives the number of his battalion and says he lost a lot of good men. According to intel, around 2,500 Americans are still listed as missing in action. Their families are demanding answers whether they're alive or not. Rambo's mission is clear. Sneak into the enemy base and gather photographic evidence of American POWs. He's strictly ordered to avoid any combat, just photographs. Under no circumstances are you to engage the enemy. The political climate has changed, and to justify military action, hard proof is required. If Rambo delivers it, Colonel Troutman's team will be sent in to extract the prisoners. But it's obvious Rambo resents the idea of leaving men behind. He stays quiet, but deep inside the fire is already burning. Later, Troutman explains the details. First, Rambo will parachute into the drop zone. This time, he's been given more equipment than usual. The colonel advises him to actually use it. Since you're going in solo, you'll have to rely on more equipment than you've ever used before. Muscles and blades won't be enough. Rambo's also shown the operations command center filled with top-tier tech, all meant to support him on the ground. He's to rendezvous with a local contact named Bao. Murdoch insists everything will go smoothly. Rambo, however, isn't buying it. He mutters that in Vietnam, there's no such thing as safety. Murdoch starts to sweat and quietly pulls Troutman aside. The colonel reassures him there's no better man than Rambo. He calls him the finest soldier of the Vietnam War, one man who equals the might of an entire war machine. He's driven to win a war others lost, and if needed, he'll lay down his life without hesitation. Before deployment, Rambo sharpens his trusty combat knife, loads his rifle, and packs explosive arrowheads. Troutman wishes him luck. Rambo has 36 hours to complete the mission, then head to the extraction point. Before he leaves, Rambo quietly tells Troutman that Murdoch lied. His supposed unit served in a completely different area. He makes it clear he only trusts the colonel. Following anyone else's orders? Not likely. Erickson lifts the plane into the sky. Murdoch and Troutman watch from the ground. Murdoch mutters that Rambo probably won't find any prisoners. The real goal is to calm the public, not save soldiers. But Rambo is determined to prove them wrong. When it's time to jump, Rambo parachutes into the night. But the expensive gear fails him immediately. His chute gets stuck and he's dragged behind the plane. He's seconds away from being pulled into the engine. Murdoch panics and tries to abort the mission. But Rambo cuts himself free with his knife, letting his heavy pack drop into the jungle. Nearly all his equipment is lost. Still, he manages to detach and falls into the darkness, now untraceable. We didn't see anything. Murdoch pushes to cancel the evac. Trautman convinces him to stick to the original plan and wait for Rambo at the extraction point. Meanwhile, Rambo hits the ground and begins moving forward, light on gear but full of resolve. With only his knives, a bow, and a few arrows, he pushes deeper into enemy territory. Rambo moves swiftly through the jungle, slithering under branches, sidestepping snakes, and following his compass. He arrives at the designated meeting point and spots a figure in a traditional Vietnamese hut. Playing it safe, he creeps up and takes the person hostage, only to realize it's a woman. She's Ko Bao, the local agent he was told to meet. She takes him to the river and informs him that the POW camp has been empty for a long time. His grueling jungle trek was for nothing. Still, there's one more plan. They head to a pirate outpost, locals who can help them stay hidden from patrols. The situation is tense, but the cash exchange goes smoothly. Soon they're in a boat headed upriver. Rambo asks how the pirates deal with military patrols. The pirate leader flashes a Russian rocket launcher as his answer. During the ride, Ko Bao gets curious about Rambo's past. Why would he come back to Vietnam? He doesn't say much. After returning to America, he realized the war never really ended. There's just a different kind of battle at home. At least in war, he says, he feels like he's flying free. Ko Bao shares that she joined intelligence to take her late father's place. She's tired of living in a world full of death and dreams of moving to America, where life is calm. It puzzles her why Rambo keeps choosing this life of danger. He says it plain, he's expendable. If he doesn't show up to a party he's invited to, no one even notices. She clutches her lucky charm on a necklace. Rambo shows her his version of a charm, his combat knife. Meanwhile, Trautman wants to move toward the evac site, hoping Rambo will make it. Murdoch tries to block him, clearly not caring about the soldier's fate, but Trautman insists and finally gets approval to proceed. After nightfall, Rambo and Ko Bao arrive at the camp. Everything seems quiet and abandoned. They move in cautiously and see a woman arriving, clearly a visitor for the guards. Rambo prepares his bow, ready to slip into the camp. Ko Bao tries to stop him. "You're not going in there." But Rambo doesn't care about orders. He cuts through the wire fence and hides in the shadows of the huts. The camp looks empty, but he presses on. He crosses a small stream and hears faint moaning from a building. Inside, he finds American POWs packed into a filthy room, sick and starving. Rats crawl across the floor. Outside, Rambo finds a soldier named Banks tied to trees like a scarecrow and frees him. They sneak past the guards at a bridge, but one Vietnamese soldier walks right into them. Rambo takes him out silently with a throwing knife. Another guard shines a flashlight, but Rambo drops him with an arrow. Ko Bao nearly gets spotted too, but her would-be captor doesn't even get the chance to call for help. Another guard drops from Rambo's bow. Now moving as a trio, they flee the camp, and Rambo promises to return for the rest of the prisoners. The next morning, Vietnamese troops discover the bodies and begin tracking the escapees. Banks is too weak to continue, so they pause to rest. He tells Rambo that he showed up just in time. Prisoners are constantly being moved and forced into hard labor. But when Rambo reveals it's been 10 years since the war officially ended, Banks is stunned. None of them knew it had been that long. They reach the river and board the pirate boat. Only 2 kilometers remain until the extraction point where Trautman and Erickson are already on their way. But the Vietnamese intercept a transmission and dispatch a patrol boat to intercept them. Just as the patrol boat appears on the water, the pirates betray them. They seize Rambo's weapons, planning to turn them in for a reward. But the soldier reacts fast. Using his hidden push daggers, he kills the pirate, grabs a rifle, and wipes out the traitors. He orders the others to jump overboard. Just as gunfire rains down from the approaching patrol boat, Rambo crashes onto the deck, narrowly dodging death. He then fires the Russian rocket launcher, blasting the boat into flames. Even on fire, the patrol boat keeps charging forward, threatening to crash into them. One last pirate grabs Rambo in a chokehold and pins him to the deck. He barely escapes with his combat knife and dives into the water seconds before impact. He reunites with the others on shore and they flee into the jungle. As they approach the extraction site, Rambo takes a moment to say goodbye to Ko Bao. She pleads with him not to think of himself as expendable, but their goodbyes are cut short when they're spotted in a rice field. Mortar rounds begin raining down, and Rambo pulls the weakened Banks to safety. From the helicopter above, Trautman and Erickson finally spot them. Rambo waves frantically as he drags Banks forward, pushing through with sheer will. At the command center, Murdoch hears that Rambo has located a live POW. Panic flashes across his face. He clears the room, locks the doors, and orders Erickson to abort the mission and return to base immediately. Trautman protests, but soldiers raise their weapons to keep him in check. He can only watch, helplessly, as the chopper turns away and disappears over the horizon. On the ground, Rambo fights back against the oncoming soldiers. He watches in disbelief as the helicopter vanishes, leaving them behind. Surrounded and outgunned, Rambo and Banks are captured. Kobau watches in horror from the jungle as her allies are taken prisoner. Back at the base, Trautman erupts with fury. He calls Murdoch a traitor. It was a lie, wasn't it? Just like the whole damn war. It was a lie. But Murdoch doesn't even flinch. He says the colonel should have known better, making him just as responsible. He doesn't deny a thing. The whole mission was a sham from the beginning. The government cares more about calming public unrest than saving the lives of a few hundred prisoners. Rambo was never supposed to return with evidence. His mission was meant to end empty-handed. But he disobeyed orders, and now he's paying the price. No one will even miss him. Trautman knows the truth. It's all about money. Vietnam didn't release the POWs as revenge for America refusing to pay war reparations. Murdoch warns the colonel to swallow his pride and think about the consequences. If Vietnam got the money, they would have funneled it into fighting America's allies. And if POWs showed up on the news, it could trigger another war. Trautman calls Murdoch a bastard and storms off. Murdoch advises him to forget the whole mission. Trautman will make a huge mistake if he tries to interfere. The colonel calmly replies that the biggest mistake has already been made. When Murdoch asks what it is, Trautman simply says Rambo. Meanwhile, Rambo is being tortured, buried up to his neck in a pit filled with waste. His body is covered in leeches, and his arms are chained with iron cuffs. Banks has been thrown into a cage with the other prisoners. Soon, a Soviet helicopter lands in the camp carrying Lieutenant Colonel Podovsky. He orders Rambo to be cleaned and brought in for questioning. Despite the pain, Rambo stays silent. Podovsky introduces Sergeant Yushin and then plunges Rambo's combat knife into hot coals. Playing the good cop, Podovsky gently asks the prisoner to contact his superiors and deliver a warning. Any further spying attempts will end badly for the Americans. Rambo spits a harsh rejection in his face. That's when Yushin takes over. They shock him with electricity, trying to break him. Still, he refuses to talk. Podovsky reads aloud intercepted messages. Dragonfly. Wolf dead. Murdoch had ordered the mission cancelled and left Rambo to die. Another electric surge. Rambo remains silent. At that moment, Kobau sneaks into the camp disguised as a comfort girl for the guards. She's escorted to a hut, where she quickly eliminates the soldier and takes his weapon. Back in the interrogation room, Podovsky brings in Banks to pressure Rambo. Yushin burns a mark into Rambo's face with the red-hot knife, then threatens Banks, holding the blade to his eye. But Banks shouts at Rambo not to give in. That's when Rambo breaks. He agrees to cooperate. They sit him in front of the radio. He speaks in English, giving the appearance of surrender, but Kobau hears his voice and rushes toward the hut. At the US base, Murdoch and Trautman hear Rambo's voice crackle through the speaker. They ask for his status. Rambo simply replies, "Put Murdoch on the line." Then all hell breaks loose. Rambo grabs the microphone stand and attacks. Kobau opens fire from below, riddling the floorboards with bullets. Rambo shocks Yushin with the torture device and crashes through the wall, reclaiming his knife. The two escape together, gunning down enemies and heading for the fence. Rambo helps Kobau through the barbed wire and disappears into the jungle. Helicopters and trucks are sent to hunt them down. But Rambo's no stranger to being the prey. Leading Kobau through the dense wilderness, he once again proves that no one escapes into the jungle like John Rambo. By morning, Kobau helps tend to Rambo's wounds. He thanks her, saying he'll never forget that she didn't leave him behind. "I won't forget it. Thanks." Now he plans to cross the border into Thailand and finally return home. She begs him to take her to America and they share a kiss. But before they can get far, they walk right into an ambush. Gunfire tears through the trees. Kobau is hit. Rambo guns down the attackers in a rage, but one of them escapes. He tries to save the girl, but she dies in his arms. Back at the base, Trautman again demands a rescue mission. When Murdoch refuses, the colonel threatens to go around him. Murdoch's response, he puts Trautman under arrest. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Rambo ties Kobao's pendant around his neck and buries her beneath the trees. He's no longer just here to extract prisoners. Now it's personal. Vietnamese and Soviet troops continue their search, but Rambo's a ghost. He hides in thick brush underwater, and even coats himself in mud to ambush soldiers one by one. Using only his knife and bow, he becomes a silent predator. He lures enemies into traps, ignites fields with fuel, and finishes off squads with explosive arrows. One by one, the enemy falls. He finally tracks down the man who killed Kobao. A single arrow is all it takes. The body explodes in a fireball of vengeance. Then a chopper appears overhead. Yushin is back. He drops a bomb, but Rambo dives into a lake. The Soviets lower altitude trying to mow him down. Suddenly, Rambo bursts from the water and climbs aboard. Inside the cockpit, he battles Yushin hand to hand. The helicopter swerves in midair. Yushin grabs Rambo by the neck, but the tide turns. Rambo tosses him out, then ejects the pilot too. Now in control, he takes the helicopter to the POW camp. He rains down bombs and gunfire, leveling huts and equipment. When he lands, he finishes the rest of the guards on foot and frees the prisoners. One man is shot, but Rambo quickly eliminates the last Soviet soldier and lifts off with the surviving Americans. But the fight's not over. Colonel Podolsky gives chase in a heavily armed gunship. He fires everything he has. Rambo dodges, trying to avoid crashing into a nearby village. A direct hit leaves his helicopter barely hanging on. Rambo manages to land it on the river's shallow waters. Podolsky approaches slowly, spotting Rambo slumped over the controls. Thinking it's over, he prepares the final shot. Suddenly, Rambo rises and fires a rocket launcher. The enemy chopper explodes into a fireball, raining debris across the jungle. Rambo fights to keep his damaged aircraft airborne, forcing it back toward the base. He radios for help, Long Wolf calling Wolf Den. And as his voice comes through the speakers, Murdoch panics and flees the command center. Trautman takes charge, ordering his men to prepare for incoming wounded. Rambo lands hard but steady. Without even catching his breath, he grabs the M60 machine gun and marches past Erickson. No words are exchanged. Trautman watches him go, knowing exactly what comes next. Inside the operations room, Rambo opens fire. Bullets rip through high-end computers and massive control panels. Sparks fly as the nerve center of the mission collapses into rubble. Then Rambo kicks open the door to Murdoch's office. The marshal scrambles for excuses, claiming he was just following orders from above. But Rambo pins him against the wall and raises his knife. His hand trembles, not from fear but from restraint. Killing this man would feel right, but it wouldn't fix what's broken. Instead, Rambo locks eyes with Murdoch and growls that there are still American soldiers rotting in foreign cages. He doesn't want apologies. He wants action. He demands that Murdoch do something before it's too late for the others. Outside, medics tend to the rescued POWs. Trautman meets Rambo and asks what comes next. Back home, they'll probably hand him another medal. But Rambo says those don't belong to him. They belong to the men he saved. He isn't going back. He plans to stay in Asia and figure out who he is now. Trautman urges him to come home, but Rambo just stares ahead. There's nothing left for him there. When his brothers died in Vietnam, part of him died too. The colonel wonders if Rambo blames America for what happened, but Rambo shakes his head. He'd still give his life for his country in a heartbeat. The only thing he's ever wanted is what every soldier wants: respect, belonging, to feel like their sacrifice meant something. But that kind of love, it's a one-way street and it hurts. As Rambo walks away, Trautman calls after him and asks how he's supposed to live now. Rambo doesn't even turn around. He just answers one day at a time.